Welcome to the Wednesday report on the human condition. I do this report as a visitor to planet Earth because I was born on this Earth. I will die on this Earth. That, by definition, makes me a visitor. So what's going on with the human population this week? I drove over to my local Chipotle because I was really craving that chicken burrito, man. As soon as I get to the door, there's a sign that says, "Sorry, taking mobile orders only. We are short-staffed." I'm like, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Really wanted that burrito. But it got me thinking about staffing, employment, and this exchange that we call employment. Let's back up and take a deeper look at what's going on here. The human being has a rule. That rule is survive and replicate. Survive and replicate. And part of surviving and replicating and then raising those offspring is having enough resources, food, shelter, etc. So in many ways, life is the exchange of resources and the control of resources. An example is real estate. I live in an apartment, which I do not own, I rent. And so someone else owns this large building that has 300 units in it. And so each month, I give my dollars to the owner in exchange for access to one of these units, which I call my apartment. It's a place where I can sleep, eat, rest, lock the door for safety, and that's the exchange. But I have a question. In the case of, say, construction workers, are they renting out their bodies to their employers? Are they saying, okay, you give me dollars, I will command my body to lift up this brick and put the brick over here where you want it to be placed? It's your goal, not mine, but I will rent out my body to you for this monthly salary. Maybe. But if that's true, then we could probably also ask if the white-collar worker in the office is renting their mind out to their employer. After all, go to anybody who works a 9-to-5 job and ask them, all these projects you think about during your 40-hour work week, all these meetings you attend, would you be thinking about these things if you weren't being paid? And the answer is probably not. Those problems belong to the employer. But to solve those problems, the employer needs a specific resource. That resource is the organ right here inside your skull, which contains a network of 86 billion neurons. And where do you find one of these? You can't just go to Amazon and buy a human brain. But what you can do is put out an ad for employment and rent one out. And in the job market that we're seeing today, where employees are hard to come by, these employers are bidding up the value, much like in the real estate world, where home values are shooting up because so many people are bidding on this limited quantity of resources. Here's another example. An ex-girlfriend of mine used to work as a bank teller at this very large commercial bank, and this bank had a list of customer service words that the tellers were allowed to choose from. Words like absolutely, definitely, of course. You couldn't say whatever you wanted. You had to choose from this word bank. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, this is kind of dehumanizing. But at the same time, my girlfriend is being compensated, and so there's an exchange happening. She's being paid a salary, and in exchange, she, in a way, is renting out her vocal box. She is using it to say things that otherwise she would not say. I think that leads to another question, which is, are we renting out our bodies, or are we renting out our energy? I've thought about this, and I think it's hard to distinguish. I mean, to come back to that example of the construction worker, it takes energy to lift a brick and then put it in a specific place. It's not just a lifeless body. It's a body that has life in it, and part of life is energy. In so a way, I think we're renting out both. But the takeaway here is that as humans, we are owners of our energy. And I think that's a very valuable insight to have. Because the sooner we become aware that we own our energy, the sooner we can begin monitoring it. Energy leaks happen all the time. When we think about things we don't want to be thinking about, when we hear some sensational headline on the news that's negative and now we have an emotional reaction to it, when we get pulled into an argument that we have no business being in, these are all energy leaks. You can think of it as a bunch of firefighters with a fire hose, but the hose has a bunch of holes poked into it. And so water's leaking out as it's traveling down the hose. Now, the result of all these leakages is that by the time the water gets to the spout, there's virtually no force left in it. It's just dripping out the end. Firefighters can't use that to put out a fire. They can't use that to even pressure wash anything. And symbolically, what that drip represents is the amount of force we are exerting on our environment. In my opinion, energy leaks are a big reason why people are not creating an effect on their environment at the magnitude that they could be. And to create an effect on one's environment, I think, is at least one aspect of what it means to truly fulfill your potential as a human being, which is something important to me and I hope is something important to all of you. If this video gave you insights, please hit that like button. I thank you in advance. Talk next week. Think deeply and put your existence first.